Captain Marvel is directed by Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, two people who have had a background making indie films, and it stars Brie Larson as the title character, along with Sam Jackson, Ben Mendelsohn, Clark Gregg. And in this movie, the Marvel Cinematic Universe finally introduces us to Carol Danvers, who's caught in the middle of an intergalactic war between two alien races, the Kree and the Skrulls. Throughout the course of the film, she learns a lot about herself and her past that she doesn't remember, and she comes to terms with the fact that she's more powerful than she ever thought was possible. Historically, Marvel's done a really good job of taking directors and writers from primarily an indie background, or people who don't really have much of a name for themselves, and getting their vision to really work with some of the best films in the Marvel Universe, like James Gunn with the Guardians movies, or Taika Waititi with Thor Ragnarok. They've done a good job with that. And so that's part of the reason I was really looking forward to seeing this movie. Captain Marvel has some things to offer. Some moments I thought were really entertaining, particularly Sam Jackson as Nick Fury. He's probably my favorite thing about the film. His chemistry with Brie Larson was really good. I thought they played off of each other really well. And he has some moments that really made me laugh. There's a couple sequences toward the beginning that I really liked. Like in particular, there's this one where Captain Marvel has these metal bars on her arms, and in order to get rid of them, she has to keep punching things as hard as she can until they come off. And so that was really entertaining. There's another one involving a train when she first gets to Earth and she punches an old lady. You've probably already seen that in the trailer, but that's one that I thought was really cool. It did kind of remind me of Spider-Man 2 a little bit. But one of the best things about this film is the incredible CGI work that was done to de-age Sam Jackson and Clark Gregg. We've seen this done in a couple other Marvel films, but in this one it's done throughout the majority of the runtime, and it never looked fake to me. During the first couple scenes I kind of had to adjust a little bit, but for the rest of it, I totally bought into it. Incredible CGI work. So like I said earlier, Marvel's done a really good job with indie directors and making their voices work within this cinematic universe. But this time, I don't feel like that was the case, because this movie really let me down. And if I had to boil it down to one thing, I really think it's because these directors just weren't the right choice for this movie. Stylistically, I just felt like it left a lot to be desired. It's a very bland and drab looking movie, and I never really bought into the world like I do with other Marvel films. When you think about movies like Guardians of the Galaxy or Infinity War, those are films that stand out, and that's because the directors really inject their style and their voice into those movies. Captain Marvel kind of just feels like one of those films that was rolled out on a conveyor belt, and it just doesn't have that much personality. This movie had 5 screenwriters, and from a narrative perspective, I think that really shows because the story is really messy. It never really finds its footing or truly figures out what it wants to be. At the beginning, she gets to Earth, and there's all this 90s nostalgia, kind of played for comedy, and then there's this buddy cop movie with her and Sam Jackson, and then you have this story with her reconnecting with her best friend. That part of the movie is supposed to be really emotional, but all these clashing tones kind of resulted in a story that felt like it didn't know where it wanted to go. I also felt like the writing got kind of lazy because a lot of the big moments in this film are told to us through a ton of flashbacks, especially a lot of Captain Marvel's backstory, and because of that, I felt like I never really got to know that character. Besides Sam Jackson, I felt like there wasn't a single likable character in this entire movie. They really do try to set up something between Carol Danvers and her best friend, but she doesn't remember her because she lost all of her memories and doesn't remember what happened in her past. So throughout the film, her best friend is trying to reconnect with her and tell her what happened and all the experiences that they've had, but I just never felt anything between these two characters, and it felt really shoehorned in. Let's talk about Brie Larson. Really talented actress. I mean, super talented. But unfortunately, one of the biggest flaws I have with this movie is that I just never cared about her character. She barely shows any emotion throughout the entirety of the movie, and I just felt like she didn't really have that good of an arc. She starts the film the same person as she is when it ends. And I don't necessarily know if that's Brie Larson's fault and the choices that she made, or if it was the directors telling her what to do. I know that going into this, the directors said they wanted to make like a feminist empowerment movie, and Brie Larson also said the same thing. And I am all about that. But what I think might have happened is that since that was such a big deal for them and they wanted Captain Marvel to be this strong female lead, they could have told her to be as emotionless as possible to make her seem like a strong, fierce person. And I don't think that was the way to go. I'm not saying that's what happened, I just feel like that might have been the case. I really feel like Brie Larson was trying to do a really good job in giving us the best Captain Marvel she could pull off, but she just felt so wooden. The Skrulls have the ability to change into other people in this movie, and I feel like that element was really underutilized. It could have added this awesome sense of mystery and suspense to the film in the fact that you don't really know which character is which and that kind of thing. But they only really ever shapeshift like twice or 3 times. You know that scene in the first X-Men movie where Mystique shapeshifts into Storm and Wolverine figures it out at the last second and then stabs her? That moment is really cool, and I was expecting this film to have a lot more of that kind of stuff in it, but it never really did that. I just feel like that was kind of a missed opportunity. They could have done a lot more with that to make this film more exciting. Besides that one scene I talked about earlier with the metal bars on her hands, I don't remember a single action sequence in this entire movie, and that's really sad. It's all kind of poorly directed. There's some moments where you can't even tell what's going on. We've had so much better directed action in other Marvel movies recently, and I just don't understand why this movie didn't deliver on that front. Overall, guys, Captain Marvel is one of the most disappointing films in the MCU that I've ever seen. From a visual perspective, it's really bland and dull. The action is really forgettable, and it doesn't really have its own style. Brie Larson as this character, I just never really bought into. The story was a mess, and I wish it was a lot more focused than what it was. This feels like a Phase 1 Marvel movie, where they were just starting out, and they didn't really figure out what they were doing yet. And that's because of the direction this movie went in, and the fact that it was really lacking from a style perspective. What I'm hoping is that the Russos do a much better job with this character in Avengers Endgame. They have a history of taking characters that you don't really care about that much and making the best versions of them. So I'm hoping that's what they do. I do want to see more of this character, and I hope they really figure her out in future installments. I'm going to give Captain Marvel a 5 out of 10. It's okay. It's not terrible. It's just definitely one of the more disappointing films in the Marvel Universe that I've seen. But of course, this is only my opinion. I encourage you to see the film for yourself and formulate your own thoughts on it. So guys, those are my thoughts on Captain Marvel. Have you seen it? What did you think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. Look forward to more reviews very soon. Also be sure to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.